520,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. We're talking about the potential processor count inside a single Huawei supercluster. I mean, it's a scale of computing that's literally hard to wrap your head around. But, it raises a pretty huge question. How exactly do you build a totally sanction-proof AI ecosystem from scratch that can actually handle that kind of mind-boggling power?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a deep dive into how Huawei is aggressively constructing this massive, vertically integrated hardware ecosystem, and it's designed specifically to secure China's AI future. It's honestly a masterclass in infrastructure building, and the data we're going through today is going to make this super complex subject crystal clear.
Okay, let's dive right into it. Here's the roadmap for today. First up, the AI sovereignty race. Second, inside the Ascend roadmap. Third, the superpod bunker architecture. And finally, China's new silicon wall.
Part 1. The AI sovereignty race. You see, to truly grasp the sheer scale of the hardware Huawei is building, we've got to look at their macro goal first, which is total technological independence.
The industrial and state backbone of Chinese AI. That phrase right there perfectly captures the pivot we're seeing in the data. Huawei is stepping back from just playing in the software sandbox. Instead, they are completely laser-focused on building a rock-solid physical infrastructure. It's really all about national security, survival, and just mass deployment at an industrial scale.
Section 2. Inside the Ascend roadmap. So let's zoom down from that macro geopolitical view and look at the literal silicon bricks that are forming this new fortress.
Q1 2026, the 950 PR drops. Q4 2026, the 950 DT. Q4 2027, the 960. And 2028, the 970. You can really feel the aggressive momentum here, right? They are tracing this accelerated, direct path to compete head-to-head with advanced Rubin-level architectures, and they're aiming to do it in just a few short years. It's moving incredibly fast.
Now let's get into the technical weeds for a second, because these specs are wild. The 950 PR delivers roughly 1 petaflop of FP8 compute with over 1.4 terabytes per second of bandwidth, running on their own in-house high-bandwidth memory. Then, stepping up to the 960, it jumps to 2 petaflops with a 2.2 terabyte per second interconnect. And the 970? They plan to just straight up double that compute capacity. What's absolutely crucial to note here is that sources report the 950 PR already achieves around 2.8 times the performance of the H20 chip in specific prefill and inference workloads. The hardware scaling is just off the charts.
Over 600,000. Just pause and think about that. That's the projected production unit count for just the 910C and newer Ascend chips in 2026 alone. The sheer volume of manufacturing they're targeting is honestly breathtaking.
And as you'd expect, that insane volume translates straight into dominance. Grabbing 40 to 50% of the market, Huawei's projected AI hardware footprint in China is absolutely massive. Their production targets aren't just theoretical numbers on a spreadsheet. They mean Huawei is actively dominating the Chinese data center market.
Part 3. The superpod bunker architecture. Okay, so how on earth do they actually deploy all those chips? Well, Huawei doesn't just hand you an individual chip. They sell a fully integrated, massive system.
8,192. Hold on to that number. That is the exact amount of Ascend 950 DT processors crammed into just one single Atlas 950 SuperPod, which is slated to hit the market in Q4 2026.
So what does an Atlas 950 SuperPod actually look like? Well, it's a vertically integrated cluster of 160 cabinets pushing out around 8+ exaflops. That is a staggering amount of unified supercomputing power, literally a quintillion operations per second. This is the heavy artillery of Huawei's lineup. They're using their proprietary unified bus and Linkway interconnects to make sure they get ultra-low latency and unified memory across thousands of nodes.
So who's actually using this tech? Well, these systems scale all the way up to superclusters with over 520,000 processors. They are tailor-made for training massive models and running high concurrency inference. And the kicker? They are actively being deployed by hyperscalers like ByteDance and Alibaba, plus critical state operators like China Mobile. We're talking energy grids, telecom networks, and vital government systems running on this stuff.
The source material uses a really fascinating phrase for this setup, a bunker architecture. It completely emphasizes this idea of total isolation.
The system is neutrally engineered from the ground up to be unbreakable. It's designed so that even if it were entirely cut off from the global tech supply chain tomorrow, it would still maintain its full operational integrity and its ability to scale. To pull off that true bunker status, you need a perfectly closed loop. Step 1 is at the foundation, the Ascend and Kunpeng hardware. Step 2, that hardware gets networked together by the Atlas SuperPod and unified bus infrastructure. And finally, Step 3, the whole shebang is tied together by their proprietary CAN software stack. By controlling every single one of those layers, Huawei completely closes the loop. They're guaranteeing sovereign computing through top-to-bottom full-stack optimization. Part 4. China's new Silicon Wall. All right, zooming back out for a macro view, all of this incredibly dense micro-level tech is driving a huge geopolitical shift.
We are basically watching a two-pillar global split emerge right in front of us. On one side, you have the US ecosystem, NVIDIA, Anthropic, Microsoft, and their focus is heavily on rapid innovation and building open ecosystems. On the flip side, you have China, driven by Huawei Ascend, Alibaba, Qwen, and Pangu. Their focus is entirely on immense scale and strict technological sovereignty. It's two totally distinct technological paradigms developing at the exact same time.
But if we look inside that Chinese ecosystem, the internal dynamics are super interesting. Huawei and Alibaba, they aren't really competing with each other here. Huawei is acting as the backbone. They provide the hardware, the survival infrastructure, the raw industrial muscle. Alibaba, on the other hand, acts as the intellect, focusing on agentic AI and complex software design. They actually perfectly complement one another to build this unified, highly capable sovereign stack.
And that brings us to a really critical realization. As this wall of silicon drastically minimizes their reliance on the West, what exactly happens when the global tech ecosystems permanently split? It's a fundamental shift in how the entire world's digital infrastructure is built. The scale, the integration, and just the sheer speed of Huawei's roadmap means this isn't some hypothetical future. It's actively being built today. Definitely something to keep pondering as we watch this space evolve. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I'll catch you next time.